Hello and welcome everybody. Hamster Sales here with another StarCraft 2 commentary. Today we have CCPwngePanda in the lower left, the Zerg player. Not myself, the Zerg player this time. I'm actually casting somebody else's game. His screen name is CCPwngePanda, but you may know him better as TheCastingPanda on YouTube. That's right, the one and only Casting Panda. The Australian, I believe he is, gentleman. I think I remember seeing that in his profile. I know folks get terribly offended if I get that wrong, their nationality wrong, as they should, but I'm pretty sure I remember correctly seeing that he was Australian, and if you have not checked him out already, definitely go check him out. He's a very fun caster, very good style, he keeps it very entertaining, much livelier than myself, I would say. You know, I'm not afraid to admit that, as a man, that, you know, he probably superior caster myself, so go check him out. He does a variety of games. I've seen pro games on his channel. He even casted one of my games on his channel, most generously, after I sent him a replay. So he was kind enough to send me one as well, so I'm casting the game. Trying to pick off the probe scout from Charles here in the early game. Probe drone warfare going on here, as we see sometimes in the early game, trying to get any advantage they can, these two combatants on Xel'Naga Caverns. Worker warfare going to be very common because of course you know where your opponent is, only one possible spawn location for your opponent. Protoss player here getting his first gateway. What will he do? He is getting one gas, chronoing the gateway, getting a fast zealot to not really block anything off. He has no kind of tight wall going yet. In theory he will block this with another gateway or cyber core though shortly. Yeah, our hero, CCPwngePanda, getting a pretty normal spawning pool timing. Yeah, this is pretty normal. This is about what I have myself, around 16 supply when he finishes spawning pool, going for that quick queen. And yeah, just proceeding into the early game here, spreading his overlords out across the map, getting some vision on this little high brush area. A lot of players like to do some crazy shenanigans, not uncommon for Protoss players to plop their pylons down here, get units flowing into the base from unexpected angles, running into your natural, ruining your day. So nothing too exciting in the early game here. I actually don't know what league these two guys are in. You know, pretty standard build order, so I wouldn't be surprised platinum or higher level league at all. Let's see. Yeah, Charles does have this successful block off now, so this drone not going to be able to see much. If he had vision of these minerals already, I believe, or even if you don't, you can use the mineral trick to get through. The drone will survive, but with just a tiny bit of life. So he probably wouldn't find out too much anyway. Wise to back off in that situation anyway. Nice not to get the scouting drone killed by the Protoss player there. And yeah, you can see he even has it hotkeyed to number 6, so he can quickly control that drone scout. A good method there. Taking the Overlord in this nice little middle area, not going to be killed by anything save air units for a very long time, so you get nice little bits of vision. Units like to clump up around this edge here when they're moving out, as this giant hole in the middle of the map is right in the direct path units want to take to get to your base, so you will probably see most of his army composition as it wraps around the cliff here, so this is a perfect place for Zergs to throw Overlords, something I myself don't do enough. So we see PwngePanda here going for roaches, getting his second gas down. That probably signifies he's going to be wanting to get a layer pretty soon. His second base is finishing up here. Both players on one base still, and Charles going for a pretty early robo. You'll often see, I think, 3-gate robo is a more standard build from Protoss, but he has his eyes set on early immortals, which could be very effective against the Panda's roaches here. We're going to have to see how this plays out. One base play from Protoss can be quite deadly against Zerg. It's often chided for being cheesy, but as a Zerg player you have to be ready for this. Lots of Protoss on the ladder like to stick on one base because their units are just incredibly powerful, and they can steamroll you with them if you're not careful. Our hero PwngePanda getting his expo down here. We're at about the 646 mark. You got to start thinking about what tech path your Protoss opponent's going to take. He may have seen the Immortal there, Depends how quick his eyes were, but he may have gotten vision of the Immortal firing on his scouting Zergling there. So he might know that his Roach composition may not cut it against against what Charles might throw at him shortly. So yeah, he's electing to build some more Zerglings. I'm not sure if that's in counter to the Immortal, but of course the Zerglings do quite well against Immortals. None of their damages is cut off by the shield effect the Immortals have. They can't take more than 10 damage, but of course the Zergling not going to be doing over 10 damage anytime soon. Maybe in Heart of the Swarm, maybe they get some kind of crazy damage buff. If any of you have seen those videos of Zerglings jumping around, you had visions of chargelings in your mind come the expansion. But alright, Charles is moving out here, and this is a pretty potentially devastating push. Our Zerg player, CCPwngePanda, has 5 roaches I can see on the field. Yep, 5 roaches, 8 lings against 1 Immortal, 5 Stalkers, and 3 Zealots. And of course, the Protoss player is going to probably be throwing down a proxy pylon somewhere. Do I see a probe in that mix? No, he doesn't have one out yet, so maybe he's planning on doing this soon. I am not sure. But, an early Protoss push that includes an Immortal can be quite devastating. Don't know if he intends. He's just going to reinforce this with units on the ground. No pylons out on the field, so he's going to have to do it the old-fashioned way. No units teleporting in from all over the map. Now he sends his probe out, so we're probably going to see a pylon plop down. As soon as he gets it going, he will warp in another round of units and then attack, is what we usually see these Protoss bastards do. But Panda, is securely on 2 base here. Natural not yet saturated, but Charles is just getting his second, so if Panda can hold off this attack, he'll be in pretty good position. Observer has great vision on the natural, so he's gonna know what he's up against. We've got 2 spines and a decent Roach Zergling mix. See what the Zerg player can do against this. He's gonna have the defender's advantage as I continue to steal from day 9. But here we go. Engagement coming in. Ling's getting a full surround on the entire army. Spinecrawler getting important hits on that Zealot. Front wall of the Protoss holding pretty strong though. Still lots of Zealots in the mix, but Roach is going to be helping to clean that up. Can he snipe the Immortal? I like the focus fire, and the Immortal takes it down. Roaches do pretty well against Immortals as far as damage output. They get absolutely melted by them, but he does snipe the single Immortal in Charles' army. And this Roach mix is going to be quite effective against the Stalker, especially with the Spinecrawler in support. And Charles electing to cancel his second pylon and retreat to his first proxy and potentially hold his tail all the way back to his base. So excellent hold there by CCPwngePanda. Was able to micro back and forth, got his spine crawlers involved, lost 1, but did his job, killed off quite a few units. A second spine crawler down to a very low amount of health. 2 spine crawlers, I really like that amount to help hold off a Protoss push, and he's getting active with his speedlings. I love this. You always want to do whatever you can with your speedlings. He may get in here, get some worker harass done, maybe even run into the main with a diversion, but able to kill this pylon with these Zerglings. Potentially distracting Charles so he can do a run by with these guys. Is that his plan here? Does he have a Baneling Nest, anything like that? No, he is going for a Spire against the Protoss. Very interesting play. Mutas can have really mixed results against Protoss. They're actually surprisingly effective against Stalkers as long as the Protoss doesn't have Blink and isn't massing them. So decent attempt there to try to get some workers, but unfortunately Charles had his army in position, so Zerglings largely wasted there, but hey, that's what Zerglings are for, man. They're cheap units. They can get a lot of damage done potentially, and they'll keep your opponent on their toes. He's super frightened that a bunch of rabid bug things are gonna come eat his economy. So Panda keeping his opponent on his toes as he should as Zerg. Don't want to let the Protoss run free, as I sometimes do all too often against my Protoss opponents. So he's going to come in here with some Muta Harass. This is going to be devastating, I can tell, against Charles here. Absolutely 0 defenses. He's going to have to quickly warp in Stalkers if he wants to save any of these probes and react quickly with his army. He is not coming back. And man, Panda is just able to go to town, taking out this pylon. He's able to get all 3 of these pylons. Charles will lose all of his production. 1 pylon down, second pylon at about half, not focusing and electing to go to workers again, getting some guaranteed damage there, and electing to back out very wisely. And oh boy, another probe buffet just waiting for him. This is the great thing about mutas. I think too often Zergs shy away against from muta play against Protoss. Myself especially, I've been relying primarily on infestors, but You saw just there how Panda was able to get some serious damage done with that flock of mutas. And you know, they're actually pretty decently cost effective against stalkers, especially if you can get them in a huge cloud, catch the stalkers out of position, especially with Zergling support. And Zergling is such a great complement to the Mutalisk. You're spending all your gas on mutas, so you might as well have a huge swarm of lings. What kind of production do we have going down from each of our players? Our Protoss villain is going for a couple of Stargates. Apologize for the bias cast, but how can you not root for your own race in a replay like this? I don't know. Maybe I'll get more professional if I do other casts of other players' games, but our Zerg hero able to take out those pylons like I was talking about earlier, and he seems to have unpowered 4 of his opponent's production structures. That's an incredibly effective thing to do if you can ever do it against a Protoss opponent. Losing a single muta, but more than worth it to completely shut down the production of his opponent, and again forcing these workers to transfer out, losing all kinds of mining time, keeping the Protoss player in his base, taking his third behind this harassment. This is a great thing you like to see out of Zerg players. Yeah, playing very smart against your enemy who has superior units, but you have the ability to you have mobility and you have the ability to macro and to a greater degree. So if at all possible to harass with things like mutas, you definitely want to get it done. And he's going to come in here going for the gas heavy sentry, but not going to get that done. Not losing any mutas either though, so no harm, no foul. Takes a little bit of damage, but that's what regeneration is for, folks. He will regen some of those hit points. And where are we going to, how are we progressing in our tech tree? So Panda going for Hive, and Charles is getting those Stargates online. And he's going for Phoenix, which is an interesting counter to Muta. Phoenix, I would say, do counter Muta, but dedicating all these resources to Phoenix is really going to hurt his ability to fight Panda on the ground. So Panda may be getting into the head of his opponent a little bit, forcing him to go Phoenix. Not necessarily the most cost-effective unit against Zerg. And the mutas come in once again. Don't know how long they've been in here, but I just caught them coming in for additional harass. Only a single cannon in defense here. A couple of Phoenix. Charles has to be very careful with these. That is not what you want to do against Muta. You want to kite them until the cows come home. You do not want to engage directly like that, losing a single Phoenix as a result. Panda losing a Muta though. And Charles does good to back off with his Phoenix there. Does quite a bit of damage to the remaining Muta. And it looks like Panda is kind of transitioning into more ground-heavy production, getting 6 more roaches. He's getting quite a bit of money, floating with some minerals, as we Zerg often do. Often difficult to spend those minerals, but he's getting 4 overloads, so he's going to get a big supply cushion, going to be able to spend that money, build a menacing army, no doubt. And Charles, loving that single immortal in his army, and now with Phoenix to take out the ever-dwindling Mutaflock, is going to push out, feels confident he can do some damage to the Zerg player, which is more than often the case. As Protoss, you can usually do a ton of damage to your Zerg opponent. But Panda coming in here, catching the Protoss army out of position. Some good force fields there, splitting the army. Panda circumventing them, going around the rocks. That is a ton of force fields. I had no idea he had that many sentries. Maybe they just, yeah, they just have tons of stored energy. But Panda electing not to engage behind all those force fields did tons of damage to the ground army. These Phoenix are floating about uselessly. Now they try to pick off some roaches. I'd like to see Panda maybe try to support these so attack the ground unit, but no, instead electing to go maybe snipe this natural expansion, one of only 2 bases for the Protoss opponent. So if he could get this down, that would be a huge victory, even at the cost of all these roaches. But he's actually engaging the ground army, doing some damage to the stalkers, and gonna back out through this back door. So didn't lose too many roaches. Roaches is a pretty cheap unit, so and he is 20 Zerglings in production and 4 roaches. Not much on the way from Charles, who doesn't have nearly as much money banked for as Panda does, so the potential for Panda's army to grow in the next minute or so is much larger. The Protoss is going to be moving in here to take out the 3rd base of Panda. A couple of queens here to fight off the Phoenixes for now, but the ground army trickles in for Charles. Panda really needs to support this, needs to keep this 3rd base alive. Tons of Zerglings coming in, super effective against stalkers. Down they all go. Some decent force fields, but not enough. Really needed a complete wall. And our Protoss opponent, so BM, those Protoss, leaving without the GG for what it was a very spirited game. So I don't know why no GG there. I think our hero, CCPwngePanda, tricked Charles into going for Phoenix. I think that was potentially his downfall. His ground army was largely inferior to the Zerg swarm that eventually overwhelmed him. So great job by my fellow caster taking out his Protoss nemesis here in this game. Thanks for sending it to me. Check out his channel if you haven't. His YouTube handle is TheCastingPanda. I have him subscribed, so you'll be able to see him from my channel page. So thanks for sending it to me, and as always, I sign off awkwardly. Well played, Panda.